My friends, hello. Welcome back to Creator Codes. Today's episode, woo! Get your seatbelt on because let's go for a ride, baby. This is actually like a bonus episode. I never record episodes on Saturday, but today it felt so perfectly aligned, and it's Saturn day, so it makes it even more aligned because Saturn is the planet of, oh my gosh, karma, transformation, shadows, like accountability and truth and structures being tested. So perfect cosmic alignment there. And with everything that has happened with Charlie Kirk's murder, this really brought a lot to surface as far as me like tapping in with what's going on with the collective and seeing things from a source perspective rather than just like, this is Cassie's opinion on what's going on. Like, my goal here, of course, I will weave in certain things that I'm thinking and everything like that. It is my podcast after all. I cannot take the human out of me. But the goal here is to really speak as source aligned as possible and give you information that's not what I think that happened to Charlie Kirk or to other people in history, but really shine a light on what's actually going on behind the scenes that many people are not aware of because of the media and the mind control that's happening. K Ultra. I don't know if you know anything about that, but look it up. Okay. And it's just wild to see. We are also in between a lunar and solar eclipse. So we're in eclipse season, right in the middle of it. Smack dab in the middle. And the lunar eclipse was for really exposing shadows, just like a full moon, right? And then the lunar eclipse it's the new beginnings that are here for us. And so we're right in the middle. We're in that dance with the light and the dark. So it's a perfect time for this episode because this awakening that's happening on a global level is uncomfortable. It's very uncomfortable, but I want to talk about the universal laws at play. And again, just like the source aligned truth about what the heck is happening here. So let's just kind of like dive right into the media and the narrative and the manipulation. Many people in the news are painted as saviors who are not exactly that, who have a lot of darkness that they are working for, let's just say. And many people that are painted as horrible people and just horrendous souls are some of the most brilliant lights. Okay? So just know that anytime a news source is making you feel a certain way about a particular person, a particular side, just know when you're feeling that due to what you're seeing, that is a manipulation tactic and they gotcha. And I was there for a long time. I fed into the politics because I thought that was what being a good person, a good Samaritan was. Make sure you know, all of these stories, the people around me being brought up, where I worked, who I surrounded myself with, I was very much not just mind controlled by the news I was watching, but by the people that were also watching this information that was just solidifying it into my belief system. And that's why one day I had this radical spiritual awakening, which actually started as a dark night of the soul, because I was not in alignment with who I actually am, with my light, my pure light. It was like a fake fluorescent light. And I was suppressing my darkness for a long time. I was suppressing the darkness around me or like in the world. No, just focus on light. And the dark is like not there, doesn't exist. And so because I didn't even know I was in resistance to my own darkness or any kind of darkness. The darkness had to literally take over. It literally had to take over because I was not willing to look at it. And that's what's happening in this collective. A lot of people are not willing to see or cannot understand how such darkness can be at play in our everyday lives if we allow it, or if we are unaware and then they're just kind of like underneath the surface creeping in. And right now, that's why so much darkness is coming through. That's why so many people are awakening. It's like the chicken or the egg, the individual or the collective energy first. It really does start with the individual, right? And so we're going to talk about the laws of the universe, but as far as the media goes, there's so much manipulation of emotions and of fear and outrage, which is a tactic for division and control. Again, I was a part of that. I was completely mind controlled for a long time and was outraged at fellow humans for voting a particular way. I was so mad at people, so mad. I became depressed. It took over my life. That is the fear. That is the dark taking over my life without me even realizing it. I thought I was righteous in feeling that way, but it was a manipulation tactic that was actually taking me over. And this is why I can have so much compassion for the people that have not seen what's actually happening yet, because I've been there and I didn't know any better. Forgive them, for they not know what they do, Jesus said. And Jesus has been such a strong teacher for me as I have become more aligned with God and with Jesus's teachings, who was an embodiment of God, right? So anyways, the divide and conquer tactic is definitely very prevalent. Just look around and you will see people spewing hate or blame on a certain party, a certain person, and basically saying it's their fault. And that's what the bigger, darker energy that is taking over and have a lot of little pawns in the mix, that's what they want. That's what the darkness wants, is for us to all be against each other, fighting. It's like we're all doing the work for them when we're just fighting and creating this chaos and disharmony. It weakens unity, it fragments humanity, and it keeps people in confusion. And when people are confused, they're looking for a mommy or a daddy in the media, in the government, whatever, to help, of having a savior. Then again, usually the saviors are painted, the quote unquote saviors are, they're painted that way, but they're not exactly that. It's very interesting. I've been on all sides of the spectrum, and that's why now I know this is a part of my purpose, to help, awaken humanity, not to force it upon anyone. I know that some people maybe are not listening to my podcast or being triggered by this particular episode, but I realized that it's really important for me to stay in alignment with my mission and my purpose. And sometimes, actually a lot of times, that does trigger people. Why did Jesus get murdered? He was murdered. He was hung on the cross, right? He was a threat. But we're going to get into more people that have been killed for speaking the truth. And so basically what's happening is, I saw someone say the devil lies. That was a quote I saw, I think today or yesterday. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's, yeah, because the opposite of God and truth is the devil and lying. And I'm not saying I believe in this guy with these horns as the devil. In tarot, the devil is the ego and attachments, and just when the ego takes over, literally all hell breaks loose. So if everyone on earth, their ego is running the show, we are not source aligned. And so that's why, for me now, being more aligned than ever with God and the truth, I'm kind of taking a step back and witnessing things. Not saying I'm perfect, right, at all, but I'm witnessing things where I'm like, wow, look at these lies. Look at these lies. And that is the manipulation that people are taking on as the truth and their beliefs, and they're identifying with it. And again, that's attachment, that's ego. And with so many people in this highly emotional place where they're so attached to who they are and what they believe, it will create so much disharmony, because when someone else is the opposite of what they believe, it's their identity that feels like it's being attacked. This is why you cannot force people into awakening, like your family, right? If you're on this spiritual path, it's not your role to awaken people. And I'm not doing this episode to awaken people, but to help with those of you who are in alignment with my messages, or who feel maybe slightly triggered with the ego, but open-minded. That's a great sign. That's a great sign. because I, in my experience, was super triggered by certain people. I maybe unfollowed them in the past before I awakened / when I was just awakening. It was just so much that I had to like turn certain things off, because we got to give ourselves some grace. Okay. We're all like flowers. Some are just seeds in the dirt, and some are just sprouting. Some are big, bright flowers. And it's not about comparing. It's not about being better than anyone else as far as your own consciousness goes and your experience and your awakening. You're more awakened. That shows that the consciousness is not as evolved when you're judging other people. And so that's been a big piece of my work, is having compassion for people that they are completely unaware. It's not that people are evil. They just don't know. Okay. And I was there. I was very moldable. I was like malleable. People like molded me they weren't trying. It was just me being in the presence of others who believe certain things. And I really like took it on from parents, stuff, and friends. Anyways. But source, God, and truth unifies. Okay. This empowers and this expands consciousness. That's why all of these lies are trying to suppress this spread of light and love and like just beautiful, more awareness, right? Being more awake and aware. I can see clearly now. The darkness does not want you to see clearly. Okay. So many listeners might feel resistance to this message, and that's normal because that is the ego at work. And so like have compassion with that. The ego wants safety. The ego avoids change and clings to illusions to kind of keep you smaller and like safer in a little box, right? The ego resists intuition as well, because intuition is the voice of source and God guiding us. That's how I use intuition. That's how I teach to use intuition, is not just to like tap in with any kind of spirit. It's very important to make sure you're clear with who you are connecting with, because that's where with the spiritual warfare stuff, right? If you're a bright light, you're just calling upon any spirit, which I'm not doing right now. I declare that only source and light are here. Okay. You can say that as well. If you're feeling like disoriented, I declare that only source and light are here. And while you're focused, it's kind of like a short-term type of solution that can help clear out any of the dark thoughts or things that might be coming through. So anyways, our intuition oftentimes will give us information that our human does not want to hear. So that's why awakening can be a rough one, because there's certain things that we are being brought to awareness that it's like, oh God, no, like your human does not want to know. And that's okay. It's okay. It's a process. And there's many awakenings that we each go throughout our lives. And right now that's what's being highlighted in the collective, is people are awakening and they're resisting and all these things. And resistance is not bad. It's just a reflection of the programming being challenged. So that's what's happening on the global scale. This resistance to hearing other people's thoughts, to hearing maybe this podcast episode, to hearing other people's opinions and experiences. There's just a lot of resistance, and that is a reflection of resisting your own darkness, resisting things that could challenge the truth. And I don't want to say it's a reflection of resisting your own darkness. It's part of that, but it's also resisting your own light as well. Okay. So when resistance shows up, it points us it points to the fact that transformation is ready to occur, because your ego likes to cling on, because it knows that if you open up or go there or listen to this or whatever, this could be something that will challenge the ego, or kind of like quote unquote kill off the ego, which we don't necessarily want to kill the ego. It's more of transmutation of energy. So anyways, let's talk about some of the laws of the universe that are at play here. So the first one is the law of polarity. Everything has an opposite in this universe, in this world. There's dark, there's light. Okay? There's truth, there's lies. There's freedom, there's control. But darkness proves the existence and power of light. Okay? And when it comes to this polarity, it's just important to recognize it, period. It's just important to recognize it because, again, in the past, I did not recognize the dark. I was just like so focused on the light. And when I did that, the dark came and bit me in the ass. And that's what will happen if we don't recognize what's really going on here, how this universe works. Okay, and the next law that I want to talk about is the law of balance. So the universe is always doing what it can to, it's restoring balance, period. I was going to say it's doing what it can to. It restores balance. And so, again, ignoring the dark, I'm only love and light, that forces the dark to surface in ways that we cannot control because we're not integrating the darkness into our reality. It's just like, oh, it's not there, and then pooh, it's going to smack you in the face. Again, just like it did for me in my personal journey. And also, every kind of suppression creates an equal or greater opposite reaction. So it can go both ways. If you're suppressing the dark, it's going to come at your face, right? If you're suppressing the light, which is what the dark is trying to do out in this bigger scale, it's going to come back, baby. And that's where I'm believing. And that's where I am like really excited about that the light is going to come back stronger than ever because of all of this attempted suppression of truth and light and God too. That's another thing on my own journey. I used to feel repulsed by people, like celebrities that were like, thank you, God. I'm like, why are they thanking God? Oh, because I was so programmed to believe that it was kind of like, I don't know. The pendulum has swung a lot in my life. And that was a point where I was just anti-God for some reason. But again, it smacked me in the face. And now I'm very connected with God. Another law, the law that we know and love, the law of reflections, otherwise known as the law of correspondence, as within, so without, as above, so below. Collective chaos mirrors our inner chaos and also the shadow work that is we're being called to do and called to look at and just recognize in ourselves. This is humanity's external dark night of the soul, which is a reflection of the internal awakening. Have you gone through a spiritual awakening? Have you had a dark night of the soul? Times that by how many billions of people on this planet, right? Because we're all one, right? The law of one, that's another one. We're all connected, especially when it comes to like our thoughts and our energy fields. So even if you are not personally going through, like for myself right now, God, I've knock on wood, I'm not going through necessarily like a dark night of the soul, but I'm connected to a lot of people that are. I'm connected to a lot of people online. Like my energy is connected to a lot of people. We're all connected to people going through all different kinds of experiences. So on the collective consciousness level, it's a dark night of the soul. And there's a big awakening that's happening, which is exciting, but it's very, very, very uncomfortable in the meantime because literally, look at what's happening. People are literally being murdered. Like, what? But this is something like certain astrologers and things like that, it's kind of like, yeah, we said this was going to happen because of the changes that we saw that were going to occur. And it doesn't just happen out of thin air. One day we wake up, oh my God, new earth, hello. There's so much energy that has to be worked with first from the old earth, so to speak, in order to transmute and to like really stand firmly in the new earth, especially on a collective level, right? So another one is the law of cause and effect. So nothing happens randomly, and every assassination or suppression attempt ripples out to spark greater awakening. So there's been many things that have happened that are very of the dark, that are creating more light. Okay. The law of vibration. So fear and division, that's a low, heavy frequency. Truth, authenticity, and unity, that's expansive, that's high frequency. So the dark thrives on low vibration, but it collapses when we anchor into source. So it's empowering to know that the darkness, and I feel like words are very limiting, but I hope you guys understand like the bigger picture here of like, yeah, just the bigger picture. Okay. And so what has happened with Charlie Kirk? Okay. That's what has sparked this episode. It's the same thing that was attempted to be done with Trump. It's what happened to JFK. It's what happened with MLK Jr. These were not random people that were pissed off that killed these people. These were planned assassinations. And it's because their voices needed, from the dark's perspective, to be silenced or targeted, because they were saying things that were actually creating or had the potential to create massive change. Now, here's the thing with dark forces. They also have, there's intuition there too. They can see timelines, they can tap in with how to manipulate in the best way and how things will happen after they go to kill someone or whatever. And it's very, like, they have tactics that they use. And obviously this one with Charlie was a tactic that they wanted to use to not just silence some of the things he was saying or was going to say, but to create division. Exactly what's happening. You can see it all over the place, to make people really live in fear. Okay, and it's not just one person. There's a lot of different shootings and things like that that are inducing so much fear that obviously are not of the light. It's trying to manipulate the light to be dimmer. That's why it's really important to not shy away from speaking using your voice, in your authenticity, in your light. We are so needed right now as light workers, as healers, as people that are doing what we can to be the change we wish to see. It's important to speak on these things like I'm doing today, even though a part of me doesn't want to talk about it because I want to be liked and accepted by everyone, but that's my ego. And that's what the dark would want. Okay. So all of these things happening in the past with these assassinations and people being taken out or tried to be taken out, they're not random, but they're patterns of dark polarity resisting the awakening of the collective. So that's why when I see people talking about, oh, it was this person who was on the left or the right, whatever, that's not who it was. There's pawns that are being used here. And it's really clear to see when you just get rid of distractions, you tap in with your intuition, and you can see it very clearly what's going on. You can feel into it. You can just, if you do see certain stories or the way things are being portrayed, it's really easy to see through when you can view it from a source perspective, which is very neutral. You're just seeing it for what it is. No opinions, right? And so with each attempt that this darkness has had, ultimately it is backfiring on the darkness because it's igniting deeper questioning and catalyzing more awakening. Again, with a law of balance, right? So yeah, and Charlie Kirk actually came through my dream the other night. And I posted something on social media. It triggered a couple of people, but like, it's what happened. I wasn't like, I'm going to connect with Charlie's energy and I want to talk to, I was never a follower of his. I didn't really even know who he was. Of course, now a lot of his stuff is resurfacing, and it's really interesting to see the discussions and things that he had. Of course, a man of God and a beautiful family, things like this. And he was a a husband and a father. And for people to celebrate his death was like, whoa, okay, I see where we're at. Yes, we are kindergarten level consciousness. And of course, part of me is like cringing at that. But again, my goal is to really be the change I wish to see and not judge and criticize and hate people that are being hateful. It's kind of like an eye for an eye. Does that really work? No, everyone's going to be blind, right? So it's, really interesting to see how these things are happening. And Charlie is someone, when I connected with his energy, oh my God, like it was a really cool energy to be around. And I even said on my Instagram stories, I'm like, I felt honored that my soul and his soul like kind of came together. Right. It was like right when he was right after, like as he was transitioning, after he transitioned. And soul level, this person was in alignment with his mission, and he really was a threat to the dark forces. So, and this again, I'm not saying this as far as like I really liked Charlie and I really liked these. If he was a radical left, he still would have been taken out. It's not about sides. It's not about, oh, it's because he was this side or that side, or it was, no, like we got to look at the bigger picture here. That's what I'm trying to shine a light on today. He was a threat. He was a threat to, with everything that he was saying, and also had the potential to do for the collective in a in a source aligned way. Very interesting. I'm learning all of this right now too, as far as this man goes. Again, I had no opinions on him. I didn't know who he was. So as far as the collective dark night of the soul, we are undergoing shadow work on a global scale. More and more people now, just like my own personal experience with awakening, are connecting with God, because it's like that is the actual, it's like the light that is shining through to help us through the darkness, like the true light. And it is painful, but it is necessary. And chaos is signaling transformation, not failure. And again, it mirrors personal awakenings, where we must face our shadows before we expand. And so I also want to be clear about like the fear, anger, and outrage. All of this, it fuels division. Now, I'm not saying don't be mad, don't be angry, don't be outraged. Make sure you allow yourself to feel whatever's moving through, okay? Because we are humans. We have these emotions that come up, especially if we're going through a transition and we haven't, we are not God itself. We have emotions for a reason. So please, I'm not trying to say like, don't feel any fear, because like you can't convince yourself not to. Let it move through and let your channel clear. Because if it takes over and makes your decisions for you, you suppress your truth, whatever it is, you are fueling the division and you're fueling the dark. So the goal is neutrality, not indifference, but neutrality, which is seeing from a source perspective. And from neutrality, everything is perfect, even the chaos, because it serves the balance. And that's what Charlie's soul is seeing now, is that, wow, okay, the people that are celebrating my death, it's actually a part of the equation. It's wild from that source perspective. I mean, it's not wild. It's wild to see it from a human perspective when there's so much hate and division. Okay. Anyways, the big events and painful ones ultimately realign collective energy back to the truth. So even when the dark tries their mightiest to get everyone pulled into the darkness, it actually launches more people into the light. So Speaking is really essential right now. This is like my message to my fellow light workers. The dark wants the light workers silent and divided, pointing fingers. So make sure you are using that throat chakra of yours, okay? Every authentic voice anchors in more light to the collective. Unity over division, okay? Source unifies, dark divides. And these are just key ways to know what's going on, what you're seeing. The devil, so to speak, at play. And the light worker's role is to keep shining, keep speaking, and to keep anchoring in the light. We cannot do that if we're just completely ignorant to the dark. Because again, the law of balance, it will slap us in the face. So we want to be aware. We want to equip ourselves. We want to make sure that we're not being manipulated, like I was in the past, being manipulated and just have no idea, right? So the universal laws guarantee that light and truth cannot be permanently suppressed. In fact, we're having a comeback. I just know it. I feel it. The chaos is awakening in progress, and the pendulum always swings back. So a call to action is to align with source daily. Trust your intuition and choose unity over division. Anytime you want to throw hate at someone because they're triggering you, just know that's a call for you to tap more into God's presence, right? Light always expands. Consciousness cannot be stopped here, but it's attempted, but it won't happen. Okay. You are so powerful. You are someone that is needed at this time. I know, especially if you've made it this far into this podcast, you're someone who is needed. Your voice is needed. And you know what's funny? I was picking up my tarot cards in the back just before I started this episode. And of course, the death card came out. And there's a rising phoenix on there. And so that's what's happening right now. We're going through this death and rebirth portal where literal death is happening. Like that's what happens with eclipse season. There's a lot of death. There's a lot of births. There's a lot of engagements, a lot of marriages, and a lot of breakups. It's the extremes of the endings and the beginnings. And so just astrologically speaking, this is a very powerful, potent time for a lot of this stuff to come to surface. And it's a powerful time to be with yourself. And if there's certain things that are coming to surface, let them see it. Don't judge it, right? Because the way that we treat ourselves, the way that we treat our own awakening, dark night of the soul, is the way that we are going to view and treat other people that are going through a difficult time as well. And the better that we treat other people, the better we treat ourselves. It's a beautiful cycle that we want to be a part of. Okay. And I also had two cards that kind of Nelly flipped. Sometimes he pulls cards for me. The Two of Wands and the Wheel of Fortune came out, which I thought was interesting because ultimately the Two of Wands is making a choice. Where do we go? Where do we go from here? Where are we going? What are we doing? Like, how are we being? The Wands energy is the spiritual energy. It's your fire. It's your light. What do you choose? What do you choose when you are faced with whatever, being triggered, seeing something you don't like, seeing something that you totally agree with, something that's feeding into the ego, something that is like just something you have hated or you do hate, or whatever it is, like just noticing your response and how you respond moving forward. And the Wheel of Fortune, this is beautiful. There is a lot of karma that has been moving through. There's a lot of different guides as well right now for the collective. I see this card and there's just a lot of different collectives, you know, that are unseen, that are with the collective as we go through this. Because just like when you're in your own personal spiritual awakening, you have guides with you. You have your higher self, your angels, right? Your spirit squad. And that's also what's happening in the collective. And just intuitively, I see lots of different forces that are really beautiful that are here to be a part of this awakening. And when I say spiritual warfare, it's not like the classic human like battle. Let's go to battle. Because ultimately, when you are fighting something, what are these laws that we talked about? It's going to fight back. We can't win war by hating everyone and being in that consciousness, the war consciousness. That will not. That's being in the darkness, trying to defeat the darkness in the darkness. We are light, and this is what's going to win. It's not about fighting, but it's about harnessing what we know to be true and not backing down from that, and not allowing intimidation and fear and chaos to take over. We stand tall with our light swords and things like that, as far as a metaphor goes. And using blue flame, just energetically speaking, is powerful to imagine as far as energy work goes and being equipped energetically. And there's different things that I do in my courses and personal one-on-ones that we can work on as far as like really being equipped with from dark forces. Because I'm talking about this in more of like what's happening in the collective and the media and all this stuff that's happening like in front of our faces. But there is spiritual warfare that's happening just in the unseen realms. And I know this firsthand. I've had many dark forces attached to me that try to take me out of my mission, especially because I'm reaching more and more people. And of course, that's going to help spread consciousness and light, which is what they don't want. There was a picture that was taken of me, and it was actually when I was in Sedona. I was going through like a weird time. And there was literally, you guys, I'm not kidding, there was like this demon on my face. It's in the picture. You can see it. My face was contorted. It looked kind of like a gross skeleton type of thing. Completely still photo. And I cleared that demon, luckily. I was really headachy and was going through a really hard time. That's what these energies will do. They'll make you feel depressed or angry, just out of alignment with your mission, feeling like your emotions and problems in your personal life are bigger than your mission. That's the dark forces winning. That's that dark polarity that's pulling you more into that darkness rather than really stepping forward into your light in your service. So anyways, if you do want to work one-on-one, I am accepting. I have a couple spots left for mentorship, and I have a collective called the Creator Codes Collective that I would love to have you join. That's an incredibly valuable resource where I have classes in there. We have monthly meetings, and I do exclusive readings for you guys in CCC, and I would love to see you in there. What else? Yeah, if you have any questions, I have my email below. I have some offerings below. There is a packaged 5-class pack that I have, and it's, speaking of incredible value, it is so great on your journey. If you want to learn more about this kind of stuff, if you want to feel more empowered in your light, these classes are very, very helpful. And so I highly recommend you take advantage of this 5-class pack. It's called the Oracle Class Bundle. I'll put it below. But yeah, if you really want to dive deep, let's work together personally, and we can help you feel as empowered as possible. And whatever your mission is, your source aligned mission is, it's so important for all of us right now for you to do that, to be that, and not feel like fear is leading the way, like, judgment is taking over, and basically like this kind of dark energy that's just manipulating you into feeling like it's not time, or I shouldn't do this. Like, your light is needed. Your voice is needed. Your spark. Woo, there's ripple effects that will come just from you. And that's what helps me show up every day. And I'm excited for what's to come, because this dark night of the soul for the collective is launching us into a massive awakening that's been going on for quite some time, right? This is why the whole 2020 shenanigans, even though it was so like it was horrible to experience and to see so many people manipulated. And again, with the media and all of these lies that were spread, it had to do with our health as well, injecting certain things that just are not necessarily source aligned, I guess we can say. Getting people to feel weaker emotionally, physically, and all of these things. So I'm grateful for that time because it has, again, launched people into awakening. That really helped me with my awakening. It made me question more, just like now with this Charlie Kirk death and even the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. Like, it's awakening more people. And I'm loving seeing that people are becoming more and more aware, although there's massive amounts of numbers that are not. But the triggers and the ego and the darkness, all of this is just swirling up so it can be dealt with. And it's so chaotic and it's so necessary. The tower is falling. The systems are falling. And it's hard to watch, but it's necessary. And I'm excited for what's coming out of this. So if you made it through this episode, thank you. I hope this resonated. Please feel free to leave a comment and share it if you know someone who can benefit from this topic today. I'm sending you all so much love. Let's continue to stand in our light, in our truth, and let's let the light prevail, baby. The truth shall prevail. All right, we got this. Let's go.